So much. Everything I'm about to say is factual, so I have 19 pages of references. If anybody wants to question anything I say, it's right here, because some of it might be shocking. Nigeria, the 6th largest nation on earth, on track to be the 3rd largest by 2050. Yeah. Top 5 OPEC, $1 trillion in minerals, a cultural powerhouse. Nigerians are among the most educated and wealthy in the United States, and they do it with integrity, sharing the values that made America great. Last year, General Michael Langley, AFRICOM, declared the region anchored by northern Nigeria as the epicenter of global terror. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, others call it home. Their stated ambition, full Sharia across Nigeria, and then a global jihad launch pad. The recent Old Dominion shooter was radicalized in Nigeria. 2 scenarios. America's greatest African ally, innovative, peaceful, and prosperous, or the greatest security threat of the next generation, a Sharia exporting giant. A little bit of history. In 1804, Usman Dan Fodio waged a jihad and founded the Sokoto Caliphate, Africa's largest pre-colonial empire. Beheading, raping, destruction, displacement, 2 million slaves at its peak. This caliphate has never ended. That's North Nigeria. The British found 2 worlds, brutal Sharia North and vibrant, friendly South. They kept the caliphate intact as enforcers, indirect rule they called it, then merged the two in 1914. The South declared independence in 1967, Biafra. The civil war that followed, the British backed the North, which blockaded the South, shot down Red Cross planes. Up to 3 million, mostly children, starved to death. The South fell in 1970. Since then, power has stayed in the North by design, the caliphate. The current constitution, imposed by northern military dictator, mentions Sharia in Islamic terms 165 times. Christianity, 0. At least $9 billion a year in blood minerals are looted mainly by China, paying jihadis and corrupting military and political officials. There was President Goodluck Jonathan in his living room that leaned in and informed me about that. I know a lot of people there. I've been there.
It was Erdogan, when he was prime minister of Turkey, who said it best. Islam is Islam. There are no modifiers. Democracy is the train we ride to our ultimate objective, which is to make Islam dominant throughout the world. He couldn't have said it any plainer. Islam is a totalitarian ideology bent on world domination masquerading as a religion. And I got to tell you, I reject the term radical Islam. That implies there's some moderate Islam. There ain't any, and you all know it. But you got to get the word out.
Thank you for joining us. We are hearing development from different parts of the world blaming the British government over the calamity that have before Nigeria, and especially up to now, we are seeing the U.S. government, coming closer to unveil the Sultan of Sokoto. What is your reaction to that? Let me tell you that this explosion that came from Mike Arnold, we must listen to him before we continue this conversation. Of course, it's mind blowing. Because whether we like it or not, he have opened the eyes of Nigerians to know the agenda of Fulanis. Because whether we like it or not, they are completely subjugated the North. The only challenge they have is how to subjugate the South. That let us listen to Mike Arnold. We'll come back to further this conversation. Welcome back. For what Mike Arnold have said, I think it becomes very obvious that the Fulanis have a very serious agenda. And they are very much interested in the resources of the southern part of the country, by extension, the one that happened to be in the Biafra land. That is why even the Gowon himself echoed it recently. That is part of the reason they refuse to allow Biafra to go. So for me, I think these are eye-opener for those who do not genuinely support the movement for, of course, this integration of the country. Because whether we like it or not, it is not a crime under UN Charter, under African Charter, which Nigerian government is a signatory to, that self-determination is a right of anyone that decides to go by it, so long as the person is doing it within the ambit of the law. And come to think of it, by providence, God never created Nigeria as one, because there is what they call language as a unifying factor. By providence, God gave the outside their own language, the Igbos their own language, the Yoruba their own language, the Fulani their own language, and every other ethnic minority their own different languages. So it goes to tell you that by providence, God created people differently. British people came here without the consent of those who they seek to bring together. They brought everybody together without the consent of the people. As we speak, the grand norm, the constitution that binds everybody together was forced on Nigerians by the same military. I think God Abubakar as a military head of state. And every attempt to make Nigerian government, the ruling class, the political class, see reason why we should have a people-oriented constitution has always been resisted. Yet, each time you say anything, they say go to National Assembly. This National Assembly has feud against the South, particularly against the Biafra region. How can you explain a situation where only Kano State is having 44 local governments? The guy said that is carved out of Kano is having 27 local governments. Put together, that is 77. Whereas places like Delta is having just 25. Places like River State having 23. What I'm saying in essence is, if resources were to be shared according to local governments, you see that the place like Kano Jigawa is having more resources than even places where we are getting all these resources from. And now that we are even seeing solid naira as a way of revenue, you can imagine that Nigerians are not getting what actually accrues from solid naira into Nigerian coffers. There have been so many reported wrongdoing as to how this revenue that comes from solid naira is being managed. So for me, what these mayor from the United States of America, Mike Arnold, have said is like an eye-opener to Nigerians. And this will, of course, open the eyes of Nigerians, because Nnamdi Kanu never hide his projection about what Nigerians were to expect, and Nigerians are already expecting them currently. But unfortunately, there are still some Nigerians who are blindfolded, who are yet to see the light. So whether we like it or not, all of us of freedom must continue to speak to issue of freedom, because if you look at what the Fulani represent currently, particularly the issue of terrorism, you begin to wonder, is there any reason why we should be in the same country with people who have no value for the sanctity of human life? I will tell you that if you look at what they are doing in Zamfara, in Katsina, in Benue, in Plateau, they have no value for the sanctity of human life. And every effort you even try to make to say, okay, even as we are one in Nigeria, let us restructure the system to the extent of state police, they will resist it. These same Fulanis, I can remember vividly not too long ago, when the Senate Committee on Constitutional Review visited Plateau State, the governor of Plateau State Mufa made a proposal for state police. The Mieti Allah in Plateau State quickly wrote to say, no, we reject state police. Really, they wonder why. These same people in sometime 2024, when they decide eastern part of the country, a Biafra land, to make a proposal for Fulani Vigilante group. With all these revelations you are talking about now, we have Southern politicians, especially the Eastern Bloc, they are virtually silent over whatever that is coming. They pretended that the Nigerian media are not even carrying it, to get the attention of what is actually going on. Why is it these leaders, the governors and the senators, with this revelation coming all over the world about what is playing out now? And definitely in a few years from now, the Christians in Nigeria are definitely going to go into extinction, like Egypt, Singapore, Malaysia, Iran, Lebanon, and all that. These were not Islamic nations, even including Saudi Arabia. But today we are seeing what is happening. Why are the Southern politicians, especially the Easterners, silent over what American Mike Arnold is talking about now, that it is coming, and what's your reaction to that? I think there are many reasons why they could be silent. Number one, the political class are not for that, because they are part of the problem. They are part of those who benefit from the system. But they are only there because of their pecuniary interests. They are not there because of the interests of the common man. So once that their pecuniary interest is served, they are not interested in whatever happens to the ordinary man. So that is part of the reason.
Okay, so you are saying that the governors too, at a time, if the pressure continues like this, they can also convert to Islam. Because that's the problem.
No, what I'm trying to say in essence is because they are benefiting from the system, talking about the political.
You don't understand what I'm saying. You don't understand what I'm saying. They are still benefiting while the conquest is coming, and these guys are not relenting. You are saying they are benefiting, so they are likely and ready, to submit and surrender when it gets to that level because of personalism, and they can be converted, and now watch their subjects also be converted to Islam. It will consume everybody if it's not checked. That is the truth. Because currently, you see what is happening in different parts of the country. A situation where they take people hostage. As we speak, about 416 Nigerians, innocent citizens, are in captivity of Boko Haram. So if it's not addressed, it's a matter of time, it will consume everybody. I said it the other time, that what we see happen in Kwara State, that nobody will believe. In 2009, if somebody wants to tell you that in 2026, that Kwara State will become an epicenter of terrorism. We saw what happened in our local government area of Ondo State recently, a situation where a police station was completely burned down. We saw even in the same Ondo State where a monarch resisted being adopted, he was disallowed in his palace. So that's why at times I tell people that you must not stand aloof. If you think you stand aloof because it's not yet happening in your locality, it's a matter of time to consume everybody. So for me, there's every need for everybody to rise and resist what I will call the Fulani agenda. Do not forget that even Kao Baraje, as of time in Kwara State, I think that was when he celebrated his 70th birthday, made it clear that they brought the Fulani militias from different parts of the world to remove a general from office. The question Nigerians are asking is, but Jonathan is no longer in office. Why are these Jonathan particularly is not saying anything? Why are these people silent? That's the question. It boils down that we are the whole thing is collapsing under what Mazen Namdekano actually. I've not seen Jonathan come out and condemn what happened to Mazen Namdekano. I've not seen Jonathan question the rationale behind this continuous disaliving of millions of Nigeria. At least it's one of the figures from the southeastern part of the country, eastern part of the country, let me put it that way, who also faced, pressure from Obama, who is being alleged to have been part of sponsorship of terrorism in Nigeria. And that's what my canon is talking about. I said, why is it such people are not speaking up? Is he not? I don't understand.
No, I do not speak for Jonathan, but I think to a large extent, judging from what came from a former House of Assembly member from Borno State, that under Jonathan government brought in missionaries who were doing excellently well, who were relying on technology to take out the terrorists. But unfortunately, Buhari removed Jonathan from office.
Is he presently now as ex-president? Why is he not saying anything?
The question is, I do not speak for Jonathan, but largely, whether Jonathan speak up or not, I don't think Jonathan is in the saddle that he has what it takes to change the tide. But the question is, currently, we have someone in office, talking about Senator Amobola Tinubu, who, of course, Nigerians are looking up to as the president and the commander of the armed forces to address this. That is why when Tinubu came up with the issue of forest guard, we started as a work on development, but unfortunately, the forest guard have not been able to deal with it.
His government his personality has been indicted. If you mention Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's already an indicted personality right there in the United States of America. And most of his actions is being against American foreign policy. So if you are trying to put Tinubu in this picture completely, whether he's pretentious about his decision or not, he wouldn't have sentenced Mazen Namdekano to life imprisonment, considering the fact that it has become a reality now.
The truth is that there's no way you discuss the issue of Nigerian security without bringing the man Tinubu, because whether we like it or not, currently he is the commander of the armed forces of Nigerian sovereign states. If Nigeria is negotiating with the United States of America for the expatriates to come here, he must be involved. Currently, we have a situation where even American expatriates, American military personnel, intelligence military personnel are already in Nigeria.
we learned that even America voted about $430 million after terrorism.
After he has robbing them with millions and millions of dollars and all that. You know, you are talking those people you are seeing that they brought, you know, it was as a result of lobbying. And if you have listened to my channel very clearly, you know, they lobbied and lobbied. I know him as the president of Nigeria now, you know, can he be trusted with the conquest agenda? Going against it with the Sultan of Sokoto sitting down there, you know, and trying to make sure that the traditional institutions collapse under him. You know, don't you think it will get to a point, you know, his commander-in-chief will not matter again when a superior force try to do the right thing in Nigeria?
The question is not about superior force trying to do the right thing in Nigeria. What I told you at initial is that, for instance, self-determination is a right. And if you are doing it, it must be within the ambit of the law without resorting to wanton destruction of lives and property. And that if a country like America is stepping in, they may be stepping in through UN, writing a proclamation and sending it to UN for UN General Assembly to vote. And I said earlier on that even if they vote against the intention and opinion of the United States of America, so long as is the intention of the American government to make Biafra happen, they will veto it and enforce it. So to that level, to that extent, I don't see Nigeria government competing with American government, because Nigerian government know that American government is a war power.
I cannot call for the investigation that the Sultan of Sokoto should be thoroughly investigated. What's your reaction to that?
I think anybody that is on the spotlight should be investigated. There's no argument about that, because he that must come to equity must come with clean hand.
I don't know what you mean by being on the spotlight. They said he is suspiciously alleged to be involved, having been part of a school in Pakistan, was a military commander and all that. And they're saying that Sharia, and of course, the caliphate should be abolished completely because they hibernate or incubate, you know, something that has to do, accommodate something with that had to do with terrorism. I remember, you know, there's me saying, you know, they must be giving billions of naira to please them. They are our brothers, they are prodigal sons, they are not prodigal sons, and they should be forgiven. And this is the position of the Sultan of Sokoto, you know, controlling over 100 and plus Muslims in Nigeria. There's no need of painting this picture, but I want to get a final reaction to that.
What you mean you don't understand what I mean by someone on the spotlight? What I'm trying to say in essence is very clear. Now, once there's an allegation against any individual, that is proper that such person be investigated. It is irrespective of who the person is and the office the person is holding. I think it's very clear. Because for me, what we are witnessing in Nigeria, just like Mike Arnold said, that the current Sultan of Sokoto is the 18th descendant of the Osman Danfodio, who of course established the Sokoto Caliphate. So for me,
if the United States of America decided to do anything to do without the caliphate, to go against the caliphate and order Nigeria that caliphate, you know, it should be, you know, eradicated within 24 hours, 72 hours, including Sharia, you know, what will be the reaction from the North? Will the North say it is time to break up Nigeria?
I want to say that the United States of America will do things in decorum, and that they are unlikely going to breach Nigeria's sovereignty without giving Nigeria an opportunity to obey whatever comes out of UN if it gets to the